So, the Glockblaster 3D. If you're watching this video, you've either been brought here by the algorithm, in which case, hello, or you were interested in my open video in which I played around with a 3D printed open Glock at a USPSA match. So, let's take a quick tour of the gun, and we'll take a look at what's going to change the next time it comes out to play. So, here we are, the Glockblaster 3D. It is your pretty standard 3D printed Glock frame. It's a revised version of the Free Men Don't Ask version that you may have seen floating around, if you're into that sort of thing. And yeah, it's got some grip tape here because the smooth-sided one is a little bit hard to hang on to. Anyway, originally what was going to happen with this gun was, like every USPSA shooter who is serious about the game, we all have that urge to dabble in open if we don't shoot it already as a primary division. And if you don't want to spend a lot of money on it, the way to do it is to gussy up a Glock into something that it was never meant to be. So I figured I could do that, or I could 3D print one and spend, scads more of my own time on something that may or may not work at all, much less poorly, like the standard open Glock does. Anyway, it did end up working all right, modulo all the feeding problems I had, but yeah, so we'll take the quick tour. It ended up being less about making a gun that would work well and more about seeing how much I could plausibly 3D print, and I think the answer was substantially more than I thought I would be able to. So, item number one, we've got the 3D printed slide wrecker here. A little bit of an upward tilt so as not to bash my thumb when I have the hand on the grip around here. Item number two, the sight mount is 3D printed. It's held on with the forward rail screw on this particular flavor of printed Glock and the locking block pin. So let me actually grab another prop real quick. Here's a less finished frame. There's a little machined aluminum front rail piece that slots into a hole, and then you can see there's a spot for a pin right there. That's where the sight's mounted. Anyway, moving on, the magazine well is also 3D printed, and this one is a particularly fascinating little piece. It is not only 3D printed, but it's also hollow and filled with lead shot, so altogether the gun in this configuration weighs about 3 pounds, which is a lot for a Glock. It's also got these little weight pockets up at the front to help with the balance and bring the weight up a little bit more. I've got the Holosun 510C up on top because, you're allowed to have a big giant sight in open, so why not get the biggest one I could find for a sensible amount of money. The SJC compensator on the front, the 11 port. This gun is in 40 as opposed to 9mm because I wanted to shoot major and didn't want to mess around with reloading the 9 grenade, so to speak. The last feature of note is the bullet counter on the back, which is it's kind of inertially operated. It detects when the slide is going back at propelled by a bullet speed as opposed to racked by hand. So that's super cool, but it is also the first thing to go because it adds some slide weight, and I looked at it exactly 0 times during the match I shot with the gun. So cool as it is, it gets the axe. Change number two, so the sight you can see you may be able to see. It's on the quick disconnect mount for the 510, which I've got like a really, really high sight height over bore. It's like 2.5 inches, which means there's this lovely kind of rainbow trajectory up to about 25 yards as the bullet comes up to the sight line and then starts dropping back down, which makes shooting at close targets kind of a bother because I've got to aim 3 inches higher than I want to actually hit. So I went ahead and did some CAD work and came up with a direct mount for the Holosun 510C. I'm going to publish that whole pattern somewhere when I get around to it, but suffice to say, it just kind of screws in through the bottom of the mount and into the sight body, which is actually very nice. The Holosun mounts that way, the 510 mounts that way, because it's difficult getting threads embedded into a 3D printed part with enough strength to resist like the kind of recoil flippiness you get with any gun. Anyway, item number two, since the slide wrecker, since the bullet counter's going to be gone, I can move the slide wrecker arm further back, so it's going to be, it's kind of hard to see because I'm holding it the tricky way. So that's where it is right now. It's close to the sight mount and the little thumb rest here on the side, which makes it tricky to do at really super speed. So if I put the peg at the back, I get another inch or two of space to get my hand up there for fast racking. Anyway, so the slide racker, it fits into a Vortex Venom pattern sight cut on the slide, since I got a slide with a sight cut and figured I wasn't going to put a slide mounted sight on an open gun. And yeah, that's one of the things that's worked really surprisingly well. I didn't expect it to go nearly as well as it has been. Yeah, let's see, direct mount, that change. I'm going to get the Timney Glock trigger because, you know, it seems like what everyone's doing these days who shoots a Glock seriously, as opposed to me who shoots a Glock mostly as a joke. And yeah, the other thing is the compensator kept on coming undone with my Loctite red, so I've got some Loctite green here to try that. Yeah, I guess the primary feature of this, the thing that I spent the most time working on, so when you shoot a gun with a compensator, what you have is a big lever, right? So the bullet kind of gets to about here, and then all the gas starts escaping through the top of the compensator, which is basically a lever. You know, it pushes down on the front of the slide and pulls up on the back. And on these Glocks, you've either got a polymer pin back here, which just gets sheared right off because there's kind of some up and down play on the slide. And unlike in a stock Glock, the rails are not built into the frame. They're a little separate unit like this that gets held in by the trigger housing pin in the back, which is usually polymer on Glocks, so you'll either get the sides of that flying off on the first couple of shots, or if you use a steel pin like I was doing at first, you'll get cracking in the printed frame around the pinhole there. So what I did, I came up with this little jig, so you kind of pop a rail unit into the jig, thusly, and it's got a hole in the bottom, so you can drill and tap a hole at a slight angle into the rails. That's the angle of the grip. And what you get is a rail unit with a hole in the bottom, threaded for a bolt. So on this gun, there is a bolt running up the back of the grip from about here to about here, and that's what's doing the retaining of the rail unit. So that worked a whole lot better. This frame did actually crack, but only because I was running too late a recoil spring for the load I ended up using at the match. But the part around that trigger housing pin is a-okay, and even the polymer pin I have in there didn't break during the match. So yeah, that's the Glockblaster 3D. It'll be showing up every now and then when I feel like when I feel like I need a break from the wheel gun and want to go fast, as fast as I can possibly go. Anyway, that's, like I said, the Glockblaster. So thanks for watching.